Welcome back, basketball fans, to another massive, highly anticipated update here on the channel. Grab a seat, settle in, and make sure you are ready for an incredibly detailed breakdown today. Because the landscape of international basketball is shifting right beneath our feet, and at the very center of this seismic shift is none other than Gilas Pilipinas. Now, I want to look closely at the title of today's episode. Source: don't believe it first. Gilas is up in the FIBA power ranking, plus bonus updates. I know exactly what you're thinking. I know the skepticism that immediately comes to mind when you hear about power rankings, especially when it concerns our national team, because we have been on a roller coaster of emotions over the past few years. We have seen the highest of highs, the incredible historic victories that unite the entire nation, and we have endured the heartbreaking, down-to-the-wire losses that leave us questioning our defensive rotations, our offensive execution, and our overall standing on the global stage. But today, we are going to unpack a highly nuanced, multifaceted situation regarding the latest FIBA power rankings, the recent and incredibly gritty performances of Gilas Pilipinas, and exactly why you need to temper your immediate reactions, whether they are overwhelmingly positive or understandably cautious. First and foremost, let's address the elephant in the room and the core of our breaking news. The FIBA power rankings are out, and the whispers, the rumors, and the early leaks have suggested a massive surge for Gilas Pilipinas. However, the reality of these rankings is a complex tapestry woven from our recent dominant performances in the FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers, our challenging and heavily scrutinized stint at the Doha International Cup, and the absolute grind of the ongoing FIBA World Cup Asian qualifiers, including that incredibly tense, nail-biting 69-66 loss to New Zealand just days ago in February 2026. When we say don't believe it first, we are telling you to look beyond the surface-level numbers. Yes, Gilas has shown flashes of absolute brilliance. We have seen periods where we were ranked number 2 in the FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers power rankings, standing shoulder to shoulder with the absolute titans of the region like Australia. We have seen our offensive efficiency completely blow away the competition, leading the entire Continental Cup qualifiers in offensive rating at various points. But we have also seen the harsh, unforgiving reality of international competition. We have seen us slip down to number 5 after the pocket tournament in Doha, where we secured a gutsy comeback win against Qatar, but suffered back-to-back heavy defeats against a Iraq-led Lebanon and a physically imposing Egyptian squad. That combined 52-point loss in those 2 games was a harsh wake-up call, the most lopsided 2-game stretch under Coach Tim Cone, and a brutal reminder that the road to global relevance is paved with adversity. And of course, hanging over all of this is the devastating news of Kai Sato's ACL injury, sidelining our towering anchor in the middle for 9 long months, forcing a complete recalibration of our interior defense and rebounding strategies. This is a monumental blow, a setback that would derail lesser programs. Yet this Gilas squad continues to fight, continues to adapt, and continues to demand the respect of the international basketball community. So, why are we telling you that Gilas is up in the power ranking narratives despite these hurdles? Because the context is everything. The FIBA ranking system, the smart power rankings, they all take into account not just the sheer wins and losses, but the quality of the opponent, the margins of victory, the continuity of the roster, and the overarching momentum of the program. Coach Tim Cone has instilled a level of defensive discipline and offensive structure that we have arguably never seen executed with such consistency by a Philippine national team. We are no longer relying solely on sheer athleticism or isolation heroism. We are running a sophisticated read and react system that maximizes a high basketball IQ of players like Justin Brownlee, Junmar Fajardo, and Dwight Ramos. In this episode, we are going to dissect every single angle of these rankings. We are going to break down the latest updates from the FIBA World Cup Asian qualifiers. We are going to analyze the return of key players, the tactical adjustments made by the coaching staff in the wake of injuries, and the shifting balance of power in the Asian region, where teams like Japan, Lebanon, and China are constantly evolving and pushing the envelope. We will also dive into the bonus updates regarding the player pool, the future scheduling, and what this all means for the ultimate goal, securing our spot not just in the FIBA Asia Cup, but making a deep, undeniable run in the 2027 FIBA World Cup. This is not just a news report. This is a comprehensive, deep-dive documentary into the soul of Philippine basketball at this very moment. So, do not touch that dial. Do not click away, because what we are about to reveal will change the way you watch, analyze, and understand Gilas Pilipinas moving forward. Let us dive deep into the facts, the stats, and the unrelenting passion that drives this team. To truly comprehend the current state of Gilas Pilipinas and their position in the FIBA power rankings, we must embark on a chronological and tactical dissection of the past 24 months. We cannot simply look at a number on a website and draw a conclusion. The story of Gilas is a story of evolution, of tactical overhauls, and of navigating the treacherous waters of international basketball, where every single possession matters, and every single mistake is magnified. Let us begin by analyzing the foundation that Coach Tim Cone has laid down. When he took the reins, there was a palpable shift in the philosophy of the national team. We moved away from the dribble-heavy, highly individualized play styles of the past and transitioned into a more methodical, structured, and team-oriented approach. This was not an easy transition. It required buy-in from superstars who were used to dominating the ball in the PBA or their respective overseas leagues. But the results initially were absolutely staggering. Recall the early windows of FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers. Gilas Pilipinas was not just winning. They were dismantling opponents. The offensive fluidity was a revelation. We saw the ball zipping around the perimeter, finding the open man with precision. We were shooting at a high clip, leading the entire continental qualifiers in field goal percentage at one point, hovering above 51%, slightly edging out powerhouse shooting teams like New Zealand. This wasn't fluke. It was a result of a meticulously designed system that created high-percentage looks. Justin Brownlee was, as always, the center gravitational force. But what made the team so dangerous was the emergence of a truly balanced attack. Dwight Ramos evolved into a legitimate two-way star on the international stage, capable of defending multiple positions and creating his own shot late in the clock. June Fajardo proved that traditional back-to-the-basket big men still have a massive role to play in FIBA, using his immense size and soft touch to punish smaller defenders and create gravity in the paint. This string of dominant performances propelled Gilas to the number 2 spot in the FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers Smart Power Rankings. It was a historic high, a validation of the new direction. The international basketball community took notice. FIBA articles were highlighting the Philippine offense, calling us juggernauts, and pointing out that our point differential was second only to the mighty Australian Boomers. We were riding a wave of unprecedented momentum, further fueled by the magical run in the Olympic qualifying tournament in Latvia, where we shocked the world by taking down a top-tier European team right in their own backyard. The narrative was set. Gilas Pilipinas had finally arrived as a consistent, elite force in world basketball. However, sports, much like life, is rarely a linear trajectory. The higher you climb, the thinner the air becomes, and the harder the fall can be. This brings us to the crucial turning point, the Doha International Cup. As part of the build-up for the final qualifiers, the coaching staff decided to test the team in a pocket tournament in Qatar. The logic was sound. Expose the team to different styles of play, build chemistry, and identify weaknesses before the games truly mattered. But the reality of Doha was a cold shower for the program and the fans. We started with a gritty, come-from-behind victory against the host nation, Qatar. It showed resilience, but it also showed vulnerabilities. We looked sluggish, disjointed, and struggled to find our rhythm against a team we were expected to beat more comfortably. Then came the real test and the subsequent reality check. We faced Lebanon, a team that has been our absolute nemesis in recent years. Led by the dynamic, unstoppable force that is Wael Arakji, Lebanon executed a masterclass in exploiting our defensive lapses. They attacked the pick and roll with ruthless efficiency. They spaced the floor brilliantly, and they neutralized our interior presence. We suffered a 21-point drubbing, but the bleeding didn't stop there. We followed that up with a massive 31-point shellacking at the hands of Egypt, a combined 52-point deficit in 2 games. It was the most lopsided 2-game stretch since Tim Cone took over. The offense completely stagnated. The defense looked a step slow, and the body language of the team raised serious concerns. This disastrous showing in Doha directly resulted in Gilas plunging from number 2 down to number 5 in the Volume 5 FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers power rankings. The narrative instantly flipped. The critics came out in full force. Were the early successes just a mirage? Had the rest of the world figured out Tim Cohn's system? These were valid questions. But perhaps the most devastating blow from the Doha campaign was not the losses on the scoreboard, but a loss on the injury report. Kai Sato, our 7'3" prodigy, the defensive anchor of our interior, went down with an ACL injury. This was a catastrophic development. Sato is not just a tall player. He alters shots, he secures crucial defensive rebounds, and his mere presence allows our perimeter defenders to play more aggressively, knowing they have a safety net behind them. The prognosis of 9 months out meant he would miss the crucial final windows of the Asia Cup qualifiers, the main draw of the Asia Cup itself, and the critical early stages of the World Cup Asian qualifiers. This injury forced a massive schematic overhaul. Without Sato, Gilas had to rely much more heavily on the veteran savvy of Junmar Fajardo, the athleticism of A.J. Edu, and the versatility of forwards like Carl Tamayo and Calvin Oftana. The margin for error on defense shrank drastically. We could no longer afford to let guards get downhill easily because we lacked that elite rim protection. This brings us to the very recent, hyper-scrutinized February 2026 window of the FIBA World Cup Asian qualifiers. The stage was set at the SM Mall of Asia Arena, a home game against New Zealand, the Tall Blacks, a team known for their immense physicality, relentless rebounding, and disciplined execution. This was the ultimate litmus test to see how Gilas would respond to the adversity of Doha and the loss of Sato. The game itself was an absolute tactical war. Gilas started incredibly strong, feeding off the energy of the home crowd. We jumped out to an early 14-7 lead in the first quarter, showcasing great ball movement and disruptive defense. But New Zealand, displaying their trademark composure, slowly grinded their way back into the game, taking a 4-point lead by the end of the first quarter. The match turned into a game of massive runs. New Zealand built a 10-point lead in the second quarter, but then Gilas, showing incredible heart, unleashed a massive 14-0 run that bridged the second and third quarters, retaking the lead at 41-37. The crowd was deafening. It felt like the magic was back. But international basketball is a game of 40 full minutes. New Zealand responded with a devastating 20-5 run of their own, exploiting our lack of interior depth, crashing the offensive glass with ferocity, and hitting timely three-pointers. They built an 11-point lead heading into the final frame. The fourth quarter was a testament to the fighting spirit of the Filipino player. Down but not out, Gilas mounted a furious comeback. Dwight Ramos was absolutely heroic, hitting incredibly tough shots. We clawed our way back, possession by agonizing possession. With just under a minute left, a Ramos three-pointer cut the deficit to just 2 points, 64-66. The tension in the arena was palpable. We got a defensive stop, but failed to secure the crucial defensive rebound, allowing New Zealand's Yanni Wetzel to score a putback layup. Ramos answered immediately with a quick layup, keeping hope alive. After a New Zealand missed free throw with just 7 seconds left, we had one final chance. Ramos rushed down the court, pulled up for a game-tying three-pointer, and the ball rattled off the rim as time expired. A heart-wrenching 69-66 loss. Now, let us analyze what the specific game means for the power rankings and the overarching narrative. While a loss is a loss in the standings, the context of this defeat is vital. We pushed a top 22 ranked team in the world to the absolute brink without our primary rim protector. We showed defensive resilience that was completely absent in Doha. Justin Brownlee had an uncharacteristically poor shooting night, going 2 of 10 from the field, yet we still almost won the game. This speaks volumes about the depth and the systemic strength of the team. Other players stepped up. Juan Gomez de Liano provided a crucial spark with 10 points. The defense held a potent New Zealand offense to just 69 points. This is why the title of our video says, "Don't believe it first." If you only look at the fact that we lost in New Zealand and dropped in the Doha rankings, you might think the sky is falling. But if you look at the granular details, the defensive rating in the New Zealand game, the ability to generate open looks even when the shots weren't falling, the sheer physical pushback against a much bigger team, you see a program that is actually hardening, learning, and evolving. The FIBA ranking algorithm takes into account the margin of defeat against higher-ranked opponents. A 3-point loss to a team like New Zealand does not hurt your ranking nearly as much as a blowout loss. In fact, it solidifies your standing as a highly competitive team in that tier. Furthermore, we must look at the broader landscape of Asian basketball to understand our true position. Australia remains the undisputed king of the region, sitting comfortably at the top of the power rankings with their deep roster of NBA and NBL talent, their flawless execution, and their overwhelming size. They are the benchmark. Japan has solidified their position as a top-tier team, utilizing a hyper-fast, incredibly high-volume three-point shooting system under Coach Tom Hovass that covers up their lack of traditional size. They are incredibly dangerous, as evidenced by their recent victories over China. Lebanon, as we mentioned, is a massive threat whenever Wal Arakji is on the floor, surrounded by versatile forwards and a newly reinforced front court. China, despite going through a transitional phase and dealing with inconsistencies, still possesses terrifying size with players like Zhou Qi and Hu Jinxiu, and they are slowly finding their rhythm again. Where does Gilas fit into this hierarchy? We are firmly entrenched in that absolute dogfight for the second, third, and fourth spots in the region, alongside Japan, New Zealand, and Lebanon. On any given night, any of these teams can beat the other. Our distinct advantage lies in our versatility. With players like Brownlee, Ramos, and Oftana, we have forwards who can switch across multiple positions, rebound in traffic, and initiate the fast break. This switchability is crucial in modern FIBA play, where neutralizing the pick and roll is a key to defensive success. However, our glaring weakness right now, exacerbated by the Sato injury, is elite defensive rebounding and rim deterrence against true seven-footers. We saw this against Egypt, and we saw flashes of it against New Zealand. Coach Tim Cohn knows this. The coaching staff is working tirelessly to implement team rebounding concepts, where the guards must crash the boards aggressively to help the bigs. We are relying on fundamental box outs rather than simply outjumping opponents. It is a grueling, exhausting way to play defense, but it is the only way forward right now. The return of A.J. Edu is absolutely critical in this regard. While he doesn't have Sato's height, he has an incredible motor, elite timing as a shot blocker, and the physical strength to hold his ground against heavier centers. His integration into the main rotation will be a massive storyline in the upcoming windows. We also need to talk about the offensive end of the floor. When the offense stagnates, as it did in portions of the New Zealand game, it is usually because the ball movement stops and we revert to isolation basketball. The triangle offense, or the modern variations of it that Coach Cohn runs, requires constant motion, precise spacing, and instantaneous decision-making. When teams pressure our guards, specifically taking away the initial entry passes, we sometimes struggle to seamlessly transition into our secondary actions. This is where the playmaking of our point guards, whether it be Chris Newsom, Scotty Thompson, or the emerging younger guards, becomes paramount. They must be able to recognize the defensive coverages, manipulate the defense with their eyes, and deliver the ball exactly where it needs to be on time. Let us also consider the immense psychological pressure on these players. Basketball is religion in the Philippines. The national team carries the hopes, dreams, and immense expectations of over 100 million people. Every missed rotation, every brick-free throw is dissected on social media. The mental fortitude required to put on that jersey and perform is staggering. The fact that this team continues to show incredible resilience, bouncing back from the disasters of Doha to put up a heroic fight against New Zealand, speaks volumes about their character. They are building a culture of accountability and brotherhood that transcends the box score. Looking ahead at the FIBA World Cup Asian qualifier schedule, the path does not get any easier. We are in a group with Australia, New Zealand, and Guam. Only the top 3 teams advance. While we handled Guam comfortably in the first window, winning by 41 and 24 points respectively, the home and away battles against the Boomers and the Tall Blacks will define our World Cup destiny. We have already dropped the first home game against New Zealand. We still have to travel to their territory, a notoriously difficult place to play, and we have a looming showdown against the number 1 ranked Australians. Every single possession in these games will carry the weight of qualification. This is why the power rankings, while interesting, are ultimately just noise. The real measurement of this team will be in the standings of Group A. But understanding the rankings helps us understand how the rest of the world views us. They view us as dangerous. They view us as a team that, when firing on all cylinders, can score with anyone in the world. They respect our home court advantage, but they also know we are wounded. They know we are missing our biggest piece in the middle. The scouting reports are out. Pressure the ball handlers. Force Brownlee to give up the ball and attack the offensive glass relentlessly. How Gilas adjust to these scouting reports will be the true test of Coach Tim Cohn's tenure. Will we see new wrinkles in the offense? Will we see unexpected players stepping up from the bench to provide instant offense or defensive energy? Will we see a more varied defensive scheme, mixing in zone coverages to protect the paint and confuse the opposing guards? These are the tactical questions that will dominate the basketball discourse in the coming months. The answers will determine not just our power ranking, but our place in the global basketball pantheon. The journey is arduous. The margins are razor thin, but the spirit of Gilas Pilipinas remains unbroken. We are a team in transition, a team facing immense adversity, but also a team with undeniable talent, elite coaching, and the most passionate fan base on the planet backing them up every step of the way. As we begin to wrap up this incredibly exhaustive deep dive analysis of the Gilas Pilipinas situation, the FIBA power rankings, and the grueling reality of the Asian qualifiers, I want to leave you with a few overarching thoughts to truly contextualize everything we have discussed today. We have traversed the high peaks of our offensive dominance in the early windows. We have navigated the dark, unforgiving valleys of the Doha International Cup. And we have dissected the heartbreaking, razor-thin margins of our recent battle against New Zealand. The emotional whiplash of being a Gilas fan is very real, and it is completely understandable if you feel a mix of immense pride and lingering anxiety about the future of this program. But here's the absolute, unvarnished truth. Progress in international basketball is never, ever a straight line upward. It is a jagged, brutal climb filled with setbacks, injuries, and agonizing defeats. The power rankings, those numbers next to our name that fluctuate from volume to volume, are merely snapshots in time. They are algorithms trying to quantify the unquantifiable heart and resilience of a team. While it is fantastic when we are praised and ranked highly, and while it stings when we are dropped after a poor showing, we must not let these rankings define our belief in the ultimate goal. The true measure of Gilas Pilipinas right now is not whether we are ranked 2nd, 5th, or 8th in a subjective power ranking list. The true measure is how we respond to the adversity staring us right in the face. We are a team that has been forced to reinvent its identity on the fly. The loss of Kai Sato cannot be overstated. It fundamentally changed our defensive geometry and our rebounding capabilities. Yet, instead of folding, we saw a team that fought tooth and nail against a physically superior New Zealand squad, pushing them to the absolute limit on our home floor. We saw Dwight Ramos elevate his game to heroic levels. We saw a defensive intensity that proves the lessons of Doha were learned, even if the final execution fell just short. This is the hallmark of a mature program. A program that does not make excuses, but makes adjustments. Looking forward, the road ahead is arguably the most challenging stretch this iteration of Gilas has ever faced. The upcoming games against Australia, the undisputed kings of the continent, will be a physical and tactical crucible. We will be tested in ways we haven't been tested before. The coaching staff, led by the brilliant mind of Tim Cohn, will need to pull off absolute masterclasses in game planning and rotational management. Every single player on that roster, from the seasoned veterans like June Fajardo and Justin Brownlee to the young, hungry energy guys coming off the bench, will need to play out of their minds. We need perfect box outs, crisp rotations, and absolute refusal to back down from the physicality of the Boomers and the Tall Blacks in our upcoming rematches. But I want you to remember this. We have shocked the world before. We have stood on foreign soil and defeated giants. The DNA of Philippine basketball is built on defiance, on proving the doubters wrong, and on an unrelenting passion that cannot be scouted or quantified. When that arena is packed, when the crowd is roaring, there is a magic that happens with this team. We need to temper our expectations. Yes, we need to be realistic about our physical limitations and the caliber of our opponents. But we must never, ever lose that fundamental belief that on any given night, when the ball is tipped, Gilas Pilipinas can go toe-to-toe with anyone. So, I am asking you, the fans, the lifeblood of this program, to stay grounded but stay loud. Do not jump off the bandwagon after a tough loss. And do not crown them champions after a single great quarter. Understand the process, analyze the game, and appreciate the immense effort these young men are putting in for the flag. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. What did you see in the New Zealand game? Who needs to step up in the absence of Kai Sato? How do you think Coach Cone should adjust our defensive schemes against the massive front lines of Australia? Let's get a high-level basketball discussion going down there. If you appreciate this level of deep, uncompromising analysis, if you want the fact without the sugarcoating, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and smash that like button. It helps the channel immensely and ensures you never miss a breaking update, a tactical breakdown, or a post-game reaction. We will be tracking every single development, every roster update, and every possession of this FIBA World Cup qualification journey. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your incredible passion for the game. And as always, Laban Pilipinas, Pusong Palaban. I will see you all in the next incredibly detailed breakdown. Would you like me to focus the next video breakdown specifically on Coach Tim Cone's offensive sets, or do a deep dive into the individual player statistics from the recent window?